Hello, friends, and welcome back to the new episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave comments so we know what kind of stories you love the most. And our first story for today about why it's better not to tear up checks. I'm not the gardener. Obligatory, on mobile, yada yada yada. So it's a typical Monday morning about 11:30. I'm doing my daily rounds and have reached the more upscale neighborhood on my route. Coincidentally, the parcel I'm about to deliver is a weed eater, and it's not in a box. Yep, it's unpackaged, which is uncommon. However, unlike most, it's also scanning that it requires a signature. Man, great, you're here. He then proceeds to ramble on about the various points that need attention. Me, sir, I just need you to sign in the white square. I hold my scanner out and slip the stylus out with my thumb for him to take. Man, wow, you guys have gotten high tech. Usually you just leave that paper in my box. Me, it's the same. He cuts me off. All right, but this better not cost more. I've already dealt with your supervisor once this week when you guys plowed over my lilies. Now, follow me around to the back. I've had some updates. Me, sir, just sign the scanner. Man, if you're gonna be that rude, just go. I'll take care of it myself. I have a trimmer coming in the mail anyway. Now go! Me, all right, sir. I'll go. I shuffle the things in my hands around and proceed to scan a pink card to hand to him. Man, what's this, a bill? He tears it up and tosses it on his porch. Me, all right, sir, but you would need that to pick up your weed eater, which you refused. It'll most likely still be at the post office. I walk back to my car, slightly irritated at him. As I pull away, I glance back and see realization setting in on his face. As for the weed eater, it was still sitting on the shelf at work. He called to lodge a complaint, and I told my boss he directly refused the parcel and shredded his pickup notice. Moral of the story, never mess with the mailman. The a-hole. I work at a big box store where the uniforms are blue shirts with black pants. This Monday I was off, but needed to get some cat food and kitty litter. While in my store, I realized I needed to get something from my locker. And when I exited the break room, Mr. Not-So-Valued Customer, NSVC, stomped towards me with this aggressive look on his face. I stopped in my tracks, as his body language was so hostile, I wondered if he was going to hit me. NSVC, where's the Presto Antifreeze that's on sale? Part of me was in awe that I was having an IDWHL moment, while the larger part was disgusted that he was so damn rude. If I'm on the clock, I'll take some crap, but not on my time, buddy. Me, mirroring back his exact communication style of no social niceties and abrupt get to the point, only in a milder voice. I'm not on the clock. There was a brief pause as we eyed each other. Then he took a deep breath and, what kind of customer service is that? I can't believe you just talked to me that way. Blah, blah, rant, more of the same, rant, blah, blah. While he's having his little snit, he pivots and stomps away from me, down the aisle towards automotive, loudly venting about bad customer service, and he's going to make sure someone knows about this. I stood there for a second and started to walk away, but he really pissed me off, trying to verbally bully me into helping him, even though I'm off the clock and federal labor laws / corporate policy forbid me to work off the clock. I listened to his ranting, getting more and more angry that this F-tard expects me to work for free, so I hollered over his temper tantrum, "You're an a-hole!" There was a microsecond of silence, then, "I can't believe you just said that! That's so rude! It's wrong to talk to people like that!" He continues to stomp around the aisles, making a complete circuit of the area by the time I'd gotten to the main aisle. Rant, stomp, stomp. He and his girlfriend walk towards me as he continues to berate me for how wrong my behavior is. So I glared at him and said, "It's not wrong to be rude to an a-hole." I reiterated this twice more while walking away from him as he kept up his little temper tantrum. Continued my shopping while at the checkouts, guess who was at the customer service desk, red-faced and pointing at me. If only he'd been more polite, I'd have told him to push the button on the wall 5 feet from where he was standing and an employee would be with him shortly. Start standing up for yourselves when you're off the clock. Stand up for others who may not be able to defend themselves. And our third story for today. Oh man, I'm gonna get fired, aren't I? So here's a relatively short tale today, folks. I've posted here a few times before, and it should bear in mind mentioning that I'm a bank teller and have been for 5+ years. My story takes me back to when I first started working as a teller. I'd gone through the mandatory 30-day supervised portion of my training and apparently passed with flying colors. I was shortly given my own drawer and station within the bank. I was technically under the 90-day probationary stage, but for all intents and purposes, I was a full-fledged employee. 2 weeks go by and I'm steadily getting more and more comfortable. Any mistakes I made were small and easy fixes until I made a rather large mistake and very nearly crapped my pants. A customer walks in and hands me his $800 payroll check and says he'd like to deposit it into his account. All right, no problem. Here's your receipt. Have a nice day. He leaves and that's that. Or so I thought. About 10 minutes later, my supervisor walks up with a piece of paper and says, "Hey, not a CEO. Did you help this guy a few minutes ago?" When I acknowledged that I did, in fact, help him with this deposit, my supervisor calmly tells me to access this guy's account and tell him if I noticed anything off. So I did, and immediately noticed something wrong. There's a small portion of our teller screens that tells us if there's any activity in that account for the current day. I can see if he's been to the grocery store, a gas station, or if he's made any deposits. Sitting in the deposit section is, wait for it, a deposit made 10 minutes ago for the nice little sum of $100 million with my teller signature on it. Read that sentence again for me, would you? Yep, I deposited $100 million into this guy's account when it should have only been $800. Noticing what I did makes my heart rate skyrocket, and the words start to fly about in my mind. I'm currently trying to think of various ways that I could commit suicide when my dear old teller supervisor starts laughing at me. He affectionately calls me an idiot and carefully walks me through in deleting the transaction and replacing it with the correct amount, which I had been completely unaware that we could do up until that point. Turns out I'd entered the customer's account number in the dollar section, which it automatically assumed was the amount deposited. Management thought it was hilarious and had initially meant to make me sweat bullets for a while before telling me how easy it was to fix. But apparently I looked like I was legitimately about to have a heart attack and they took pity on me. Oops. Don't ask an owner-operator for his boss's phone number. So I drive an 18-wheeler. Not only that, but I own my own truck and business. One day, while coming into Laredo, Texas, I was in the turning lane for my exit and this car whips out in front of me. Not really having enough room to stop, I turned onto the shoulder, threw on the air horn, which is extremely loud when you're next to the truck, and stopped right beside the guy. He proceeds to get out of his car with his phone and starts taking pictures of my truck and plate. By this time, the light had turned green, so I gave him a few short horn honks and basically tell him to get going. He then beats on my door, so I roll my window down, and he starts screaming about his ears hurting and now how I'm damaging his ability to hear. He then demands that I give him my boss's number and my driver's license number, so he can call it in and report me and have my job for this. And he proceeded to move his car to the shoulder and backed so close to my bumper I couldn't get around him. I kind of smirked at him and told him he didn't want to speak to my boss because he's a short-tempered man and he wouldn't like what my boss would have to say about the issue, but he insisted that he speak to my boss. I also told him if he wanted to call me in, all he'd need was the numbers on the side of my truck since it's assigned to me. Considering I only own one truck, you can imagine what I would assign my truck number to be. I could see his number pop up on my phone mounted to the windshield. He couldn't see it from his angle, and I tried to hold in my laughter. I let it ring for a minute, and he's getting impatient the whole time as traffic is going around us. I finally pick up the phone and answer it. Insert company name here, Transport, how can I help you? His face turns beet red. He proceeded to yell at me some more and tells me it isn't over because now he has my number. Yeah, dude, so do about 100,000 other people, so what? Week later, I get a phone call from a number I didn't have saved in my phone. I'd forgotten about the incident, but thought it might be a broker or a customer. I answer the phone and this lady chirps up. Turns out it was his mother, and she wanted monetary compensation for her son's troubles. I asked if she knew what had even happened, and she tells me some story about how his bumper was damaged by my truck and that he was scared to talk to me because me driving an 18-wheeler was intimidating to him. Being a smart owner, I have a camera in my truck, so I dump all my truck's footage onto my hard drive. I asked her if she could receive videos over email. She said sure, but wasn't sure what I was about to send her. I spend a minute or two looking through the hard drive on my laptop and find the video of the incident and send it to her. While she's still on the phone, I can hear the audio playing as she watched it. Her tone changed in an instant, and I heard her put the phone down, and all hell broke loose in that house. There was Spanish screaming, things being thrown, Lord knows what else was going on. It reminded me of that movie, Christmas Story, when Ralphie's mom calls that lady about the curse words and hears the apocalypse on the phone. Yeah, it was kind of like that, but in Spanish. She then comes back to me and very kindly asks for two things. One, she asked that I forget she called and act as if this never happened because she was embarrassed to no end. And two, if I could delete the video of her son's idiocy. I told her that number one was fine, I could do that. But as far as number two, I would not delete the footage. But the only way anyone other than me or her would see it is if it was needed for a court case. She bid me good day and hung up the phone. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.